renderforest.com.
Hi all, I'm Trisha Peach, host of the Peach Buzz, and I'm so glad you're with me again today. I'm so sorry we had a delay on getting this one out. I wanted to do this sooner. I had injured my back really bad and it was hard to sit up for a while, and then last week was my son's graduation. His graduation party's this week, so go Logan! Yay! But it's very difficult for me being the mom of a boy that's graduating and going to college. No, I haven't come to terms with it yet. Anyway, we were talking about why your job is harder. As a children's leader in your church, your job is a whole lot harder. And I mentioned that we were going to do a follow-up to that, why your job is now even more difficult mid and post-COVID. So we're in the middle of a pandemic, hopefully winding down. Why is that making your job as a children's leader even harder? I would suggest that you watch the first one before this, why your job is more difficult. Even without COVID, your job is going to be more difficult as a children's leader in your church. But now, in the age of COVID, it's even more difficult because, number one, I don't know if you have noticed this, but the minute they said, make sure the kids stay 6 feet apart and don't touch each other, I thought to myself, this is going to be like literally herding cats, because kids see each other, they run up and hug each other, lick each other, they're always touching each other. It's very hard to stop a normal cold from spreading just because of that. At our church, I would say most of the kids have already had it or have been vaccinated. And no matter where you stand on that, there are a lot of churches that are still trying to keep the 6 feet apart rule. And I think that's a whole lot harder in the kids area than any other area. You can explain to adults why it's so important to stay 6 feet apart. And a lot of the adults are really good about that. Some adults are not good at that. They have no sense of personal space and they're hugging everybody. With kids, this is, I think, 1,000 times tougher because they go by touch. They're kinesthetic learners, a lot of them are. And they've been so deprived of that interaction for so long. So they see their friends and they want to hug them and their cousins. And I don't have all the answers on that. I know that we have recommended keeping the seats 6 feet apart, but in the end, because we do have our kids' church up and running, a lot of kids' churches I know are up and running, and to be honest, the majority that I've seen in Wisconsin or in the Midwest, they are, now that the vaccine is out there, a lot of people are just kind of dropping some of that 6 feet apart and dropping masks with children. But again, check your own local guidelines, check your state guidelines, because they vary greatly. Here where I live in Wisconsin, we have been off lockdown for over a year. We have not had a mask mandate now for months. Even the public school has dropped their mask mandate. We are trying to have people social distance. With children, it is a whole lot harder. So I would say look at your local guidelines, your church's guidelines, decide which way you're going to go with that. But I think it's a lot harder with kids because they see they want to touch. Water fountain, they see they want to touch. We've left ours permanently off, our water fountain. The schools here are still just using the bottle filler, which I think is pretty smart. So a second thing that your job is a whole lot harder during this pandemic, higher expectations. As if the expectations on you weren't hard enough as it is. The expectations are harder, and your own expectations are so difficult. Why do we put so much of this on ourselves? We put unbearable, unreasonable expectations on ourselves, and other people put them on you too. For example, did you really think you would magically just know how to navigate a new, aka novel coronavirus, and you would just know how to weather a pandemic by osmosis? There's no books out about it yet. Sure, there will be. We all have been in this together, in this same boat. This has been figuring it out. I like to say running downstairs in the dark hoping you don't hit anything. That's what we're doing. Is you got to be a little more kind to yourself. We're not fortune tellers. We're not fortune tellers. We're not mind readers. We give everybody else a whole lot of grace, a lot more than we give ourselves. You have to remember you've weathered a whole nother storm. And there are a lot of expectations. People come in and expect, well, you're the children's pastor. You know all the regulations and you know what we should do. You know if we should have masks or not. You know if we should trust the vaccine or not. You know if we should have kids' church or not. You know. So there's all these expectations. My hunch is you probably put worse expectations on yourself than everybody else puts on you. Be kind, give yourself some grace. You deserve some grace in this whole thing as well. No, you didn't know what to do. You had to figure it out in the middle of it. So good for you for figuring out ministry during a very tough time. Number 3, most churches are reporting lower numbers. Even after reopening, being open for a while, they are reporting lower numbers. Some of those families are still not comfortable coming back face to face. Let's be honest, it is a lot harder for us to do our job if you're standing up front teaching and a third of the kids are there that had been there. It can be discouraging. Let's just be real. It can be discouraging. You're wondering, where did these kids go? How do I get back in touch with them? I hope they don't slip through the cracks. Are they still watching online? It can be very, very difficult. Some of them are not going to feel comfortable coming back in person for a while. My suggestion would be keep reaching out, keep ministering, keep up your virtual kids ministry, keep it going. Keep reaching out to these families so that when they are comfortable and they are ready, that they will still feel like a part, not like they got left behind. I get asked all the time, should I minister to the kids that are here or the kids that are virtual? Yes, you should minister to both. You should be giving it all for both. Should you be reaching out and ministering to vaccinated parents or unvaccinated parents? Both. Should you be doing ministry to Democrat parents or Republican parents? Both. Your ministry is to whoever God brings into your path. Your ministry is to whoever comes into your path. I don't try to change that. I just love them and I minister. What I won't give are my own non-negotiables. My own non-negotiables about salvation, faith in Jesus Christ being the only way to salvation, that scripture is reliable. That's our rule of faith and practice. So those things I'm not going to budge on, and that splinters down into 1,000 different I'm part of our denomination because I agree with it. If I didn't, I would pick another one. There's plenty of them in the U.S. But when you're looking at these lower numbers, you may be tempted to take a stand one way or another. I would urge you not to alienate anybody. At our church, we don't ask. We leave whether they're vaccinated or not to them and God and their doctor. We minister to whoever comes in that door. That's what we do. And I think that'd be the best way. Those lower numbers are discouraging, but remember, everybody's going through that, and you are loved and you're doing a fantastic job, whether it's for 10 or 30, no matter how many you have coming in that door. You minister to whoever God brings you that morning, both virtually and in person. That's not a reflection on you or your skills as a children's leader at all. Everybody's been in the same boat where that's concerned. So, another way that this is so much harder for you right now, doubling up. Just when you thought this couldn't get any harder and you're ripping your hair out right now trying to make everybody happy, and newsflash, you cannot make any of them happy. You can't make any of them happy. You're not going to make some people happy unless everyone's vaccinated and you publish their names and vaccination cards for them to see. And then the other side's not going to be happy at all unless you speak against vaccination and don't allow anyone vaccinated in there. You can't make them happy. So I just say, look, I'm not giving out anyone's medical information. I'm not doing that. These are the steps we're taking, the precautions that we're taking. we want you to participate. We're going to minister to you no matter what. But a lot of churches, because of the capacity restraints, so they're open, but they can only be at 10% capacity, 30% capacity, 80% capacity, whatever it is, they're in real trouble, because as people come back, it's very easy to go over that and then they get fined. So their answer to it was to do more services. Okay, do more services. The one I think that gets dumped on the most for this then is the children's leader, because you're supposed to come up with another children's service, and then a lot of those kids just stay for the second service because they're leaders' kids or worship leaders' kids. So now they already heard this once, and now they're going to hear it again. This can be a huge challenge. And now, besides all that, you're coming up with a virtual service. So you've got a virtual service, you've got a live service, then you have another live service, and maybe even another live service. And then what do you do with the leaders' kids who've heard this so many times? My suggestion is to have them help you present it the next 2 times. Have them help teach it in some way, do puppetry or a skit or something, because they're hearing it so many times. I would say to continue dropping off home packets for some of those that are not comfortable coming in yet. And I would say to give yourself some grace, because this is a whole lot more work than what you were doing before. You're doing multiple services and a virtual service and trying to reach people that are distant. You are trying to reach the kids that are there. You're in a volatile political situation. Give yourself some grace. You've got a lot more on your plate probably than anyone realizes, including you. One way to know is to take out a sheet of paper and just start writing down all the things that you are doing. You may be shocked at what you are doing and how much more you're doing. It's not a bad idea to mention that to your senior leader. We want them to just magically know. How are they going to magically know if you don't tell them what's going on and how much more is now on your shoulders? That's what I would say to encourage you. And last but not least, your job is so much harder right now because in a lot of ways you're starting over. I hear that from so many kids pastors all over the country right now. They said, I just feel like I'm starting over. I've worked for a year or 2 here and I had it up to this point, and now I'm completely starting over. We had built all these kids up, these big groups, and now we're down to this. We're back to this. We're starting over. I know that can feel extremely overwhelming, maybe even discouraging, like a setback. Remember, it's no reflection on you. That you're not in control of a pandemic. This is no reflection on your ministry. I will say, I heard from a friend of mine, I loved her attitude. She said, I feel like we've been given a rare chance, a chance to start over. This is a brand new day. We can build up a healthy ministry environment. We can make a difference. No more doing stuff just because someone else did it 50 years ago and somebody's great grandma's uncle's first cousin's roommate thought it was a good idea. You get to make choices and leave your fingerprints on that ministry. Leave your creative influence on that ministry. Where does God want to take that ministry now? Now you really have a time for a reset, to make some changes. That's actually a really good opportunity. She was taking it as, you know what, I've wanted to make some of these changes. I finally am going to get my chance. I love her attitude with it. So I wanted you to know you're not alone. It is not all in your head. This is so difficult right now. You've got so much on your plate. Stop blaming yourself and give yourself even one smidge of the grace you're pouring out to everybody else. You'll give everybody else lots of grace, but typically kids pastors leave very little for themselves. I just want to encourage you. I want you to know Jesus sees how much work you're putting in. I hope you have a fantastic week, and know I send all my love, and keep fighting. I know this is hard. We're all struggling with this right now, but look at what God has done in your life this week. God is still in control, and he has some incredible things planned down the road. So I hope I see you next week on the Peach Buzz. Have a fantastic week. Bye-bye.